Welcome back. In this video, we will be understanding about this tool that is Matplotlib tool, which is actually used for the visualization in Python, or I can just say as this Matplotlib is a data visualization library. But guys, before taking an in-depth look at this Matplotlib tool, I want you to understand this term data visualization. So now the question is, what is this data visualization? Data visualization is actually the graphical representation of information and data, that too by using some of the visual elements like charts and graphs. And guys, we all know that we live in the era of enormous data. And this data visualization tools and technologies are very much essential to analyze these massive amounts of information and make data-driven decisions. Fine? Now, to understand more on this visualization or the data visualization, let's take up an example here. Guys, personally, I am a big fan of cricket, so I'm just taking this example here. So now, if you observe on the screen, we have got some image with some colors and values, and we call this image as pie chart. And guys, you might have come across these type of images like line graphs and bar charts for the representation of the data like run rate comparisons, players' personal best or personal bests in particular match, particular region or particular country. Or it may be some other data, but the thing is, you will be seeing these things very often in any of the sports. Correct? So now coming back to this pie chart, this pie chart is actually representing the Virat Kohli's batting performance in T20. Okay, so now this area is representing the scores between 0 to 25, and this one is representing the scores between 26 to 49, and this is 50 to 74, and this is 75 to 99, and yes, this is 100 plus. So here in this chart, what you can do is you can easily understand the percentage of the scores. Correct? You can easily see that. And guys, the thing is, you don't have to feel left out with a big table of data, because that big table of data itself is simplified and represented in the form of charts so that anybody can understand the data easily. So now we got to know as what exactly this data visualization is. But now it's time for us to understand what are the advantages of this data visualization. So, what are the advantages of this data visualization? Here, let's consider a business, say e-commerce business like Amazon. So, in such businesses, they come across trillions of data. Yes, trillions of rows of data every day. So guys, can you just imagine staring at a massive spreadsheet of data and couldn't see a trend? Yes, that is when this visualization comes into aid. So to have the better understanding of any trend, you should be able to understand the data. And with this data visualization, you can understand the data easily and do the better analysis. So when you have this better analysis, you can take the proper and quick action on that situation. That is the best strategy for any business. And also with this better analysis, what we can do is we can easily understand and identify the pattern of profit and loss too. Yes, we can do that very easily. And with this better data analysis, yes, with this better data analysis, we can easily identify the errors. Yes, you heard me right. You can easily identify the errors. But how? See, for example, just take it as an example like you are selling some mobiles and on some day you have sold around 50 pieces of mobile. But at the end of day, when you check your graph of profit, you observe that it is just showing the profit of 20 pieces of mobile. Then you can take the quick action on that. Correct? Do you agree with me? So here what you did, just by seeing a graph, you were able to identify the error. Correct? And guys, let me tell you this. That is, this data visualization is actually a storytelling with purpose. Yes, you heard me right. This data visualization helps to tell the stories by curating data into a form which is very much easier to understand. That is, a good visualization removes the noise from the data and highlights the useful information, which actually leads to better analysis, taking quick action, identifying patterns, finding errors, and also in exploring the business insights and grasping the latest trends. So, we got some idea here as about this data visualization. So guys, now let's move ahead and understand this data visualization library, that is Matplotlib. Now, what is this Matplotlib? Matplotlib is a comprehensive library for creating the static, animated, and interactive visualizations in Python. And it is also said that this Matplotlib tool makes easy things easy and hard things possible. So, using this Matplotlib, we can develop publication quality plots, that too with a very few lines of code. And along with that, we can use this interactive figures that can zoom, pan, update, and doing many more things. And after that, we can take the full control of line styles, font properties, as well as the axis properties. And then we can even export and embed to a number of file formats. Overall, it is a beautiful, beautiful interactive environment. So now, before we dive into the details of creating visualization with Matplotlib, there are certain useful things that you guys should know about using this package. Guys, it is just like taking some training before starting the actual game. Fine? Good, let's start here. So, the first thing is installing this Matplotlib. Guys, since we have installed Jupyter Notebook through Anaconda distribution, there is no need of external installation of this Matplotlib package. So, the good news is you can just import it and it is ready to use. But still, if you're finding any difficulty, so what you can do is you can just run this code in Anaconda prompt. See this one, pip install matplotlib. Fine. Now, first thing is importing the Matplotlib. Just as we use this NP, which is the shorthand for NumPy, and this PD, which is actually the shorthand for pandas, so in the same way, we will use some of the standard shorthands for importing this Matplotlib. So it will be like import matplotlib as MPL, or it may be like this also, that is import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. But guys, this PLT interface is the one which we use very often. Why? Very soon you will get the answer. But for now, just understand as this PLT interface is the one which we will be using very frequently. Fine? Yes. Next is setting styles. So what is this setting styles? Here we will use a directive called plt.style to choose the appropriate styles for our figures. Actually, there are very different style sheets in Matplotlib. It will be like classic, BMH, dark background, ggplot, 538, grayscale, seaborn bright, seaborn white, seaborn ticks, and many more. Now here let's set this classic style, which actually ensures that the plots we create use the classic Matplotlib style. So how do we set this style? Very easy. You have to just mention this way, plt.style.use of classic. Got it? Now the next question is how to display the plots. See, what is the use of visualization which cannot be seen? The question is, how do we display our plots? Here I can say as the best use of this Matplotlib differs depending on how we are using it. So I can say as roughly there are three applicable contexts which are using this Matplotlib. First is plotting from a script, second is plotting from an IPython shell, and third is plotting from an IPython notebook. Since we are using this Jupyter Notebook, which is a browser-based interactive Python notebook, here we can create two types of plots. Yes, two types of plot. One is interactive and other is static image. So now to create this interactive plot using matplotlib, we run the command that is percentage matplotlib notebook. And for creating these static images of the plot embedded in the notebook, we run the command as percentage matplotlib inline. So guys, now to show you the difference between this interactive plot and the static image, what I'll do is I'll just run these two code cells. So guys, now to show you the difference between this interactive plot and the static image, what I'll do is I'll just run these two code cells. Here in this code cell, I have specified as percentage matplotlib notebook, which actually represents the interactive plot. And I have written the code which plots the sine wave. Okay, and here in this code cell, I have specified as percentage matplotlib inline, which actually represents the static image, and along with that I have written the same code for the sine wave. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll run this code cell which contains this percentage matplotlib notebook. Yes, here we got the output. Now, when I hover my mouse on this plot, you can see that the value of x and y are changing. That means we can get the value of any point on the plot instantly. And along with this, we can also zoom the plot. See? Along with this, we can even zoom the plot. See, it is now zoomed. And now what I'll do is I'll just reset it by pressing on this home button. Okay? Yes, along with this, even I can pan my plot. That is, we just have to click on this pan button and pan in a way you wish. See? Correct, right? So guys, these were some of the examples to show you as how an interactive plot look like. Now to stop this interaction, we have to just click on this button. Yes. Now what I'll do is I'll just run the cell that is percentage matplotlib inline. Okay. Yes, this is the output which we have got, and this is just a static image. So guys, I hope you got the difference between this percentage matplotlib notebook and this percentage matplotlib inline. Now during our learning journey, we will generally opt for this, that is percentage matplotlib inline, that is static images. So guys, now let's take up one simple code. Okay. Here I have written as import matplotlib.pyplot as plt, then import numpy as np, then x is equal to np.linspace of 0, 10, 50, y is equal to np.sine of x, and then plt.plot of x, y, and plt.show. So here what I'm doing is I'm creating a numpy array x with 50 equally spaced points between 0 and 10. And also I have computed this array y as sine of array x. After that I have written as plt.plot, and inside this parenthesis I have specified the data x and y, and after this it is plt.show. Okay guys, let me execute this code cell, and yes, this is the output we have got. So guys, now let's go in depth and understand these functions which are looking very new to us. So the first one is plt.plot. Now we use this plt.plot function to create a plot for the given values. Yes, it is as simple as that. This plt.plot function is used to create a plot for the given values. And now to display the plot which was created by plt.plot, we use another function, that is plt.show. So this plt.show will just display the created plot. And guys, these two functions, that is plot and show, are actually present in the package called pyplot, which is inside this matplotlib. Hence, if you observe this line, I have written as import the pyplot package inside the matplotlib as plt. And guys, that's the reason I have told you before, like rather than using that import matplotlib as MPL, we will be using this interface, that is import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. Now got it? Great. So guys, this was all about displaying the plot. From the next video, let's understand the anatomy of this plot. Yes, it is just like anatomy of the human body. We will be learning the anatomy of a plot, which is very much important. So guys, see you then. So guys, we have learned about displaying the plot in previous video. Now, for any student of medicine to understand the nature of human body, as a first step, what they have to do? They have to understand the anatomy of the human body. Do you agree with me? Yes. So, in the same way, for the better storytelling of any data visualization, we should be understanding the nature of the plot, that is, anatomy of a plot. Yes, anatomy. So guys, let's go ahead and dig more on this. Now, you just imagine as you are sitting in your living room. And the good news for you is you have got the high-speed internet and also the membership of Netflix. But the bad news is when you look at your wall, you realize that you don't have a TV. Now, to enjoy your favorite show, you need a TV. So what we have to do? Let's put a TV here. Fine? Yes. Now, this TV actually displays the content of your interest. So guys, if you observe, before we had everything like high-speed internet and the Netflix membership. But we did not have a TV to watch the content. It was just like a blank wall. But now, we have got a TV which has been mounted on a wall, which actually displays the content of our interest. So I can say as this blank wall supports a TV which has been mounted over here. So this wall and the TV are the two important components. And in the same way, if we observe this matplotlib plot, we have got two important components. Yes, two important components. One is figure and other is axis. Wherein this figure can be compared to that of the blank wall and wherein this axis can be compared with the TV. So this figure is actually a blank canvas or the topmost layer of the plot, which actually constitutes of subplots, axes, titles, legends, everything. It's a kind of big picture. Wherein this axis is something where we can actually write our own x-axis limits, y-axis limits, their labels and many more. It is actually a subplot and this can be compared to a TV which displays the content of our interest. Fine? So guys, this was about the two important components. One is figure and other is axis. Now, all the components of the plot which we see on this screen are actually present on the axis. So now to mention the few, we have got title, x-axis label, y-axis label, legend and even this the major tick label. Now just like an empty wall which can hold more than one TV, in the same way this figure can also hold multiple axes. So to show you an example here, see here this figure contains two axes. This is axis 1 and this is axis 2. Both are present in the single figure. Understood? Now, for all the matplotlib plots, we actually start by creating a figure and an axis. So guys, let's first create a figure. For that, what I have to do is, I have to write as plt.figure and I have to execute it. So let's go to the Jupyter notebook. So I'll write as plt.figure and execute this. Okay, we are getting something with 0 axis. That means it's just an empty wall. Now what we have to do is we have to install a TV. That is, we have to create an axis. So what I'll do is I'll write a code as plt.figure and plt.axis and execute this. Yeah. The one which we are seeing here is the empty gridded axis. It is actually an empty gridded axis. So guys, here in this matplotlib, the figure is an instance of the class. Yes, this figure is actually an instance of the class plt.figure, which contains all the objects representing the axis, graphics, texts, and labels. And now this axis is actually an instance of the class plt.axis. Yes, that is what we are seeing here. It is actually a bounding box with ticks and labels, which will eventually contain the plot elements which build our visualization. Okay, so throughout our learning journey, we will commonly use this variable name fig to refer to a figure instance and the variable x to refer to an axis instance. Fine? Yes. Now, once we have created this axis, we can use this ax.plot function to plot some data. So let's get back to this Jupyter notebook and let's start plotting with a simple sine wave. So here I'll write as fig is equal to plt.figure. Okay. Then ax is equal to plt.axis. Then x is equal to np.linspace of 0, 10, 100 and ax.plot of x, np.sin of x and then plt.show. Yes, and let me execute this code cell. Yeah, we got the sine wave. Now, if you observe the code, here I have created a figure as well as this axis manually. Do you agree with me? Yes, we have created this figure and this axis manually. But we have got a function called plt.plot function. Yes, plt.plot function, which actually creates the figure and axis for us in the background. So collectively, I can say as instead of creating this figure and axis manually every time when there is something to plot, we can just use this plt.plot function. Okay, now to plot the same sine wave, I'll write the code this way. That is x is equal to np.linspace of 0, 10, 100. Then plt.plot of x, np.sin of x and then plt.show. And let me execute this. See, we got the same output. Got it? So guys, from the next video, we will be understanding about the different types of plot. So see you then. Welcome back guys. Now, depending on data and application, we can actually create the plots of our interest by using variety of plots available in Matplotlib. So, some of the different types of plots available in Matplotlib are line plots, scatter plots, histogram plots, bar chart, box plot, correlation plot, heat map, violin plot, swarm plot, pie chart, and many more. So guys, now let's start our journey on this with line plots. Yes, line plots. A line plot is actually a type of chart which displays the information as a series of data points called markers, which are connected by the straight line segments. Okay, so now to create a line plot, we just pass our data into plt.plot function as a first argument. I repeat here, to create a line plot, what we do is we just pass our data into plt.plot function as a first argument. Okay, now let's see how it looks like. Okay, so coming to Jupyter Notebook. So what I'll do is I'll first import this numpy as np. So import numpy as np. Then import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Okay, now plt.style.use. I'm using here like Seaborn white grid. Yes, here I'm using the style that is Seaborn white grid. Okay. And then we will be displaying the static image. So here I'll be using as percentage matplotlib inline. Then x is equal to np.arange of 1, 15. So plt.plot of x and plt.show. Okay. So let me execute this, and yes, this is the output. And guys, this is the simple line plot with simple data x. Okay. Now to create a line plot for pair of points, what we have to do is we just have to pass the pair of points to plt.plot function. So now let's see how it looks like. Let's go back to our Jupyter notebook and I'll write the code this way. That is x is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and then y is equal to 0, 2, 1, 4, 3, 8 and 5. Then plt.plot of x, y. Then plt.show. Here I have created two Python lists. One is x and another is y. And here in this x, I am passing set of values like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And in y, it is 0, 2, 1, 4, 3, 8 and 5. Now, here I am passing these values of x and y into this plt.plot function. So here what system will do is it will just consider the corresponding values of this x and y for plotting the points like 2, 0, 3, 2, 4, 1, 5, 4, 6, 3, 7, 8 and 8, 5. And it will actually display the values as a series of data points as markers, and then it connects those markers with a straight line. That means it is considering the pair of points to create a line plot. Okay, so let me execute this code cell. Yes, see the output here. If you observe the different markers, see it is 2, 0, this is 3, 2, this is 4, 1, this is 5, 4 and so on. And these markers are actually connected with a straight line. So this is a line plot with a pair of points. Understood? Okay, so guys, this was about passing the pair of points to plt.plot function. So now what I'll do is I'll just plot two waves. One is sine wave and another is cosine wave. So first let me write the code for this sine wave. So it will be like x is equal to np dot length space of 0, 10, 100. Okay. Then y is equal to np dot sine of x. And then plt dot plot of x, y and plt dot show. Okay, so let me execute this. Yes, we got the sine wave as an output. Now let's do the coding for this cos wave or cosine wave. So what I'll do is I'll just copy the same code and paste it here. And let me change this to, now let me just change this to z is equal to np dot cos of x. Okay, fine. Then plt.plot of x, z also. Okay. Yes, let me execute this code cell. Yes, this is the cosine wave. Now, if we observe these two waves, we cannot see much of difference. But see, these two are the different wave. One is sine wave and another is cosine wave. But how do we see this difference? Yes guys, we can make out the difference easily if we create the multiple plots in single figure. And guys, if we want to create a single figure with multiple line or multiple plots, what we can do is we can just simply call this plot function multiple times. See, it will be like this: plt.plot of x, np.sine of x and plt.plot of x, np.cos of x and then plt.show. So let's get back to our Jupyter notebook and execute the same code. So it will be like this, that is plt.plot of x comma y, and then plt dot plot of x comma z, and then finally it is plt dot show. Okay, so let me execute this code cell. That's all. We got the desired output, that is sine wave and the cosine wave in a single figure. And this is called as overplotting of multiple lines. Yes, this is called as overplotting of multiple lines. Got it? So guys, we will now dive into more details about as how we can control the appearances of the axes and lines. But we will continue with this concept from the next video. So see you then. Guys, welcome back. Now it's time for us to dive into some more details about as how we can control the appearances of this axes and lines. So any user, when he plots something, the first adjustment he always wish to do is to control the lines, colors and its styles. Yes, it is to control the line colors and its styles. And this plt.plot function actually takes additional arguments which can be used for the adjustment of colors. Now, to adjust the color, what we can do is we can use a keyword. So what is the keyword? It is color. Yes, color is the keyword. And this color can be specified in a variety of ways. Like this color can be specified by name. It can be specified by short color code like RGB, CMYK, or it can be specified in grayscale values, that is 0 to 1, and afterwards by using this hex codes like RRGG, BB, and then also by using this RGB tuple, that is 0 to 1, and also with this HTML colors. Yes, all the HTML colors are supported by this color keyword, or you can say as plt.plot function. Fine. So now what I'll do is I'll just go to my Jupyter notebook here and let's do some coding work so that we can get the clarity on this adjustment of line colors and styles. Okay, so let me start this way. First is like plt.plot of x comma np dot cos of x minus 0 comma color is equal to blue. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm actually specifying the color by its name. See, here I'm specifying it as blue color. I'm specifying the color by name. Then what I'll do is I'll write as plt.plot of x comma np dot cos of x minus 1 and color is equal to G. So here I am using the short color code, that is G for green. Similarly, I can do for R, that is red, B for blue, C for cyan, M for magenta, Y for yellow, K for black, that is RGBCMYK. That is here I am using this green for green color. Fine. Now, let me write as plt.plot of x comma np dot cos of x minus 2 comma color is equal to 0.75. So, here what is this 0.75? It actually represents the grayscale. That is, the grayscale is represented with the values between 0 and 1. And here I have specified it as 0.75. Fine. Next, I'll write as plt.plot of x comma np dot cos of x minus 3 comma color is equal to hash ffdd44. Here what I'm doing is I am specifying the color using the hex code, and the hex code for the primary colors, that is RRGGBB, varies from 00 to FF. Understood? Yes. Next, I'll be writing as plt.plot of x comma np dot cos of x minus 4 comma 1.0, 0.2 and 0.3. Okay. Here what I'm doing is I'm specifying the colors by passing the respective values of RGB in the form of tuples. So the values of RGB in the form of tuples will be between 0 and 1. Okay. So next is plt.plot of x comma np dot cos of x minus 5 comma color is equal to salmon. Yes, salmon. That is, here I am specifying the color supported in HTML. And guys, all the HTML color names are supported in Matplotlib. Fine. Now let me execute this code cell. See, we have got blue color, green color and all the other colors which we have specified in different ways. Got it? Yes. Now, if you observe our previous plot, that is the sine wave and cosine wave, in the single figure, here we have not specified any color. But still it chose two different colors as red and blue. Why? Because when you don't specify any color, then the Matplotlib will automatically cycle through a set of default colors for multiple lines. So guys, this was all about controlling the colors of plot elements. Similarly, we can also adjust the line style. Yes, we can do that. We can also adjust the line style. But how? Very simple. That is by using the keyword line style. And guys, we have got various line styles as solid, dash, dash dot and dotted. So let's get back to our Jupyter notebook and see how we can adjust this line style. So let's start coding here. So first it is like plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x minus 0, then line style is equal to solid. Okay, so here by using this keyword line style, I am actually plotting a cosine wave in solid fashion. Fine. Next, it will be like plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x minus 1 comma line style is equal to dashed. Here, I am actually trying to change the line style to dashed wave. Fine. Next is plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x minus 2 comma line style is equal to dash dot. So here the line style will be in the form of dash dot. Simple. Then plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x minus 3 comma line style is equal to dotted. So here we will get the cosine wave with dotted line style. Now let me execute this code cell. Okay. See, this is solid and this is in the dashed format and this is dash dot and yes, this is in dotted format. Now, if you're not willing to write in the descriptive manner like solid, dash, dash dot and dotted, instead, you can also use the codes as well. So guys, here let me write the code so that you can understand this short form in a very easy manner, okay? So it will be like plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x plus 1. Then line style is equal to hyphen. So here for solid, I'm actually writing as hyphen. Okay. Then I'll write as plt.plot of x cos of x comma, plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x plus 2. Then line style is equal to double hyphen. So here for dashed style, I am writing as double hyphen. Okay. Now it will be like plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x plus 3, then line style is equal to dash dot. Here it is like I'm using hyphen with a dot to get a dash dot wave. Okay. Next plt.plot of x comma np.cos of x plus 4 and here line style is equal to I'm specifying as colon. So here for the dotted wave I am using a colon. Okay, so let me now execute this code. See, we just got the same output. Okay, so guys, these were some of the example of various line styles. So now, if you want to be extremely concise, then these line style and color codes can actually be combined into a single non-keyword argument. Yes, into a single non-keyword argument to this plt.plot function. You can ask me as how. Don't worry, this will not be an assignment and I'll show you this now itself. Okay? Yes. Now it is extremely easy. So what we have to do? We have to directly go to coding and start writing the code. So it will start as plt.plot plot of x comma np dot sin of x comma hyphen g. So here I'm actually using this hyphen with G. That means we are trying to get the solid green colored wave. Okay. Next will be like, yeah, I'll take this one. PLT dot plot of x comma np dot sine of x plus 1 comma hyphen hyphen c. Here I'm using this double hyphen with C. That means we will get a dashed wave which will be of cyan color. Okay. Now PLT dot plot of x comma np dot sine of x plus 2 comma dash dot k. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm trying to plot the wave in dash dot format which will be in black color. Next it will be like PLT dot plot of x comma np dot sine of x plus 3 comma colon r. So here I am using the colon to get the dotted wave which will be of red color, and finally it is PLT dot show. And guys, let me execute this. Great. Yes, this is the solid green, this is dash cyan, this is dash dot black, and this is the dotted which is in red color. So guys, the single character color codes which we have used like RGB, that is red, green, blue, and this one like CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow or black, are actually the color systems. Yes, they are the color systems which are commonly used for the digital color graphics. Okay. So guys, this was all about controlling the colors and styles with shorthand syntax. So let's move on to our next concept, that is, in this matplotlib we can also control how individual point or the markers look like. That means we can also change the style of these markers too. How? It is very simple. We do it with the use of marker keyword. So now to illustrate the same, what I'll do is I'll just write a code here, that is x is equal to np dot linspace of 0 comma 10 comma 30. Okay, then y is equal to np dot sine of x, and then plt dot plot of x comma y comma marker is equal to v. Okay, and then plt dot show, and let me execute this code cell. See, in the output we can observe the marker style that has been updated with lower triangle. In the same way, we have got many other styles like point, circle, triangle up, triangle left, triangle down, square, pentagon, and so on. And guys, see here, these are some of the codes for the different marker styles. And we have got many marker styles. So if you really want to see all of them, then please do check the official documentation of this matplotlib, or you can just click on this link which I have given here. Okay. So now, just for fun, what we will be doing is we will be just combining all our learnings, that is, in a single plot. So let's customize our color, line style, as well as the marker style, and let's see how the outcome will be. Okay? Before, to combine this line style and color, we use the single non-keyword argument like plt.plot of x comma x plus 0 comma hyphen g. It was something like this. Okay, now to add the marker style for this, what we have to do is we have to write something in this fashion, that is marker, line style, and then color. Okay, so it will be something like, first we mention this marker and then this line style and then the color. So let's do the real coding now and see how we will get the output. So let me start by x is equal to np dot linspace of 0 comma 10 comma 30, and y is equal to np dot sine of x, and then plt dot plot of x comma y comma o colon r. Okay, so here I'm actually specifying the marker style as O, that is circle, then line style as colon, that is dotted fashion, and then the color as red, that is red color. And then it is plt.show. So let me execute this code cell. Yeah, great. See, we got a sine wave with color red in dotted fashion and it is having circle marker style. Okay, understood? So guys, here let's see one more example, that is to plot x comma y comma v hyphen hyphen g. So here I'm specifying the marker style as v, that is lower triangle, and then line style as dash dash, that is hyphen hyphen, which will be in the dashed fashion, and the color as g, that is green color, and then it is plt.show, and let me execute this code. Yes, we got a sine wave with green color in dashed fashion and it is having the lower triangle as marker style. Got it? So guys, this was all about adjusting the plot with line colors and styles. Now, let's move on and understand about adjusting the plot with axis limits. Yes. Now it is about adjusting the plot with axis limits. So till now we performed many plots, but we never mentioned the axis limit over there. So in simple words, I can say as we never mentioned the limits for this x-axis and y-axis in our plot. But still, Matplotlib actually did a very decent job of choosing the default axis limits for our plot. Now, if you observe this code, here we never mentioned the limits for this x-axis and y-axis. But still, if you observe the plot, the x-axis limit ranges between 2 to 8. And this is because the minimum value in x is 2 and the maximum value is 8. Hence, that's the reason this Matplotlib chose the default x-axis limits between 2 and 8. In the same way, it has done the job for this y-axis too. But guys, sometimes it would be better to have a finer control on this axis limit. So the most basic way to control this axis limit is by mentioning the limits for x-axis and y-axis. So this x-axis and y-axis are actually collectively called as axis limits. This is axis, that is axis with I. So by adjusting this axis limit, we can actually control this axis limit. And now to adjust this axis limit, we use plt.xlim and plt.ylim methods. What is it? To adjust the axis limit, we use two methods. One is plt.xlim and other is plt.ylim. So guys, now let's take up an example and see as how we set this axis limits. So let's get back to our Jupyter notebook. Okay. So the code goes this way. First it will be like plt.plot of x comma np.sin of x and then plt.xlim of -1 comma 12. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm just specifying the range of x-axis, that is it should be between -1 and 12, and then this plt.ylim of -5 comma 5. And here what I'm doing is I'm specifying the range of y-axis, that is it should be between -5 and 5, and finally it is plt.show. Yes, let me execute this code cell. See, in this output, please observe this x-axis and y-axis. It is just in the range as we have mentioned in the code. Okay? Now, for some reason, if you feel like either x-axis to be displayed in reverse, then what we have to do is we just have to simply reverse the order of the argument. So let me write the code so that you can get a clear picture of this. So it will be like plt.plot of x comma np.sin of x and then plt.xlim of 12 comma -1. And here that means like I'm specifying the x-axis range and we know that, okay? And then it is plt.ylim of 5 comma -5. And then here I'm specifying the y range, and of course after that it will be plt.show. And let me execute this. See, observe the output. Here the range of both x-axis and y-axis are displayed in reverse order. Okay. So guys, this was about xlim and ylim methods. And now to set this access limit, we have got another method, that is plt.access method. What it is? plt.access. And yes, this access is with an access I, that is access with I, not the access with E. I hope you got the difference in the previous slide itself, like what is access and what is access, okay? And this access actually represent, or I can say as this access constitutes of X axis and Y axis. So this is plt.access method. Okay, and this plt.access methods allows us to set the x and y limits with a single call. Yes, it is done with a single call. That is, I'll be passing a list that specifies xmin, xmax, ymin and ymax. It goes in this fashion which you are seeing on the screen. Okay. Now, let me write the code for this method plt.access. So it starts with plt.plot of x comma np.sign of x, and then plt.access of -1 comma 12 comma minus 1.5 comma minus, sorry, it is 1.5. Okay, minus 1.5 and 1.5, and then it is plt.show. Here -1 is xmin, 12 is xmax, wherein minus 1.5 is ymin, and this 1.5 is ymax. And if I execute this code, yes, we got the expected output. And the x-axis is ranging between -1 and 12, and this y-axis is ranging between -1.5 and 1.5. Now, if you observe this x-axis markers carefully, then you can see as its step size is of 2. Correct, right? The step size is 2. That means each marker is incremented by 2. And here in this y-axis, the step size of markers is 0.5. So, even though we are controlling the range of x-axis and y-axis, but still, step size of x-axis and y-axis is automatically taken over by this matplotlib. Do you agree with me on this? Yes, it is automatically taken care by this matplotlib. So now, how to control this? So to control the markers on x-axis and y-axis, we have got two other functions, that is xticks and yticks. And these ticks are actually the markers itself, which are denoting these data points. Let me tell you again, the ticks are the markers which actually denotes the data points. So this xticks and yticks functions takes a list of objects as arguments, and the elements in the list actually denotes the positions on corresponding action where ticks will be displayed. So now to get the clarity on this, let me write a code and execute it. Okay, so let's get back to our Jupyter notebook. And here I'll just write as plt.plot of x comma np.sign of x, and then plt.access -1 comma 12 comma minus 1.5 and then 1.5, and then plt.xticks of np.arange of -1 comma 13 comma step is equal to 1. So here inside this plt.xticks, I am mentioning the numpy array with the values between -1 and 13 with the step size as 1. And then it will be like plt.yticks of np.arange -1.5 comma 1.5 comma step is equal to 1. Okay. And here inside this plt.yticks, I am actually mentioning the numpy array with the values between -1.5 and 1.5 with the step size as 1, and then it is plt.show. And we all know what is this plt.show, okay? So let me execute this code. Yes, observe here. On x-axis, we have got the ticks or the markers as we have specified, that is between -1 and 13, that too with the step size equal to 1. And now in this y-axis, markers are between -1.5 and 1.5 with the step size equal to 1. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I'll just change the step size for this x ticks and y ticks. So for this x ticks, I'll just specify as 3. Okay, I'll just specify it as 3, and for this y ticks, I'll specify it as 0.25. Okay, now let me execute this. See, observe, we got the expected output, and here this step size for this x-axis, it is 3, and the step size for this y-axis is 0.25. Fine. So guys, this was all about x ticks and y ticks, and we also understood as how we control the axis limits. So guys, now let's move on and take a look at the labeling of plots from next video. Guys, in this video, let's understand about this labeling of plots, that is titles, axes, labels, and the simple legends. Now let's see as how we can set the axis labels and title. Now what does this axis represents? This actually represents the x-axis and y-axis. So for axis labels, we actually use two methods. One is plt.xlabel and another is plt.ylabel. And in the same way, we have got one more method called plt.title. Now, by using this method, that is plt.title, we will be adding the title for our plot. So, let's see, by using these methods, let's add the title and the axis labels for our plots. Okay, so for that, let's go to our Jupyter Notebook. So here, I'll start with plt.plot of x, np.sin of x. Okay, and then plt.xlabel of x-axis, then plt.ylabel of y-axis, then plt.title of, let me give as, what shall I give, plt.title of sine function, yeah, sine function, and then plt.show. So here what I'm doing is I'm specifying the label of x-axis as x-axis itself, and then for y-axis it is y-axis, and here I have specified the title for this plot as sine function. So what I'll do, I'll just execute this code cell. See, observe this plot. We have the axis labels as x-axis and y-axis, wherein the title as sine function. Okay. Now, if we have a situation like multiple lines are being shown within a single axis, then it will be very useful for us to create a plot legend. Yes, it is very useful to create a plot legend which actually labels each line type. So this matplotlib has a built-in way of quickly creating such a legend, and this is actually done by using one method that is called plt.legend. And guys, there are actually several ways of using this plt.legend method, but one of the easiest way is to specify the label of each line using the label keyword of this plot function. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll just write a code so that you can get the clear picture on this label keyword for this legends. Okay, let me come back to my Jupyter Notebook here. And let me start the code with x is equal to np.linspace of 0, 10, 1000, and then plt.plot of x, np.sin of x, color is equal to r, and label is equal to sine function. Okay, and then plt.plot of I'll just change here, x is equal to np.cos of x, then color will be like G, and then label changes to cosine function. Okay, then plt.axis of 0, 11, -2, 2, that is x minimum, x max, y minimum, and y max. Then plt.legend, and after that it is plt.show. So guys, here to set the legend for this sine wave, I have mentioned or I have used this label keyword inside this plt.plot function. See, label is equal to sine function. And for this cosine wave, the label is equal to cosine function. Got it? How we are using this label keyword inside this plt.plot function? Fine. Now what I'll do is I'll just execute this code cell. See, we got the legends for this plot. So if you observe, then this plt.legend function keeps track of the line style and the color, and then it matches these things with the correct label. See, here it is sine function and it is cosine function. Okay. So guys, this was all about the labeling of plots, and with this we come to an end of this line plot, and from the next video let's continue our learning with scatter plots. So see you then and happy learning. Another commonly used plot type is the scatter plot. Yes, here in this scatter plot, instead of points being joined by the line segments, here, the points are represented individually with a dot, circle, or maybe of any other shape. So guys, let's start our learning by setting up the notebook for this plotting, that is scatter plot. So let me come back to my Jupyter notebook. And here what I'll be doing is I'll be importing the functions which we will be using for this scatter plot. Fine. So it will be like percentage matplotlib space inline for the static images obviously, and then import matplotlib dot pyplot as plt. Okay. Then plt dot style dot use of the one which I am using is Seaborn white grid. It is Seaborn white grid, and then it is import numpy as np. Okay, so I have imported the functions which we will be using for the scatter plot. Now for this creation of scatter plot, or I can say as for creating the scatter plot, we have got two methods. Yes, we have got two methods for creating this scatter plot. One is using plt.plot function and other is using plt.scatter function. So here let's start with this, that is scatter plots with plt.plot function. In the previous section of line plots, actually we looked at this plt.plot function to produce the line plots. Correct, right? And the good news is this same function, that is plt.plot function, is used for producing this scatter plots as well. So coming back to our Jupyter notebook, here I'll be writing a code. So it will be easy for us to understand the scatter plot by seeing it visually. Okay, so it will be like x is equal to np dot linspace of 0, 10, 25, and then y is equal to np dot cos of x, and then plt dot plot of x, y, o, color is equal to, let me give it as black, and then obviously plt dot show. So here in this code, if you observe this plt.plot function, then the third argument in this plt.plot is actually a character. Yes, it is a character. And this character represents the type of symbol used for the plotting. So it is just like we specify the options such as hyphen, that is for dash, dash dot to control the line style. So in the same way, here we have used the character. So now let me execute this code cell and see how we get the output. Yes, see, if we observe this output, here the points are represented individually with circle-shaped marker. Okay, so now this scatterplot's marker style has its own set of short string codes. Yes, it has got its own set of short string codes. So guys, now let me write a code to show you some of the very commonly used marker style. So that is marker styles is equal to O, comma, X plus V, that is lower triangle, upper triangle, S, D, P, that is for pentagon, and then star. So here what I'm doing is I'm actually creating a Python list which contains the short string codes for the different marker styles like O, X plus, lower triangle, upper triangle, square, diamond, pentagon, and the star. So now what I'll do is I'll just create a for loop like this so that it will be easy for us to see the plot in a very visible way. Now I'll create a for loop. So for that I'll write as for marker in marker styles, and inside this for loop I'll call this plt.plot function. So I'll call this plt.plot function as plt.plot of np.random.rand of 5, and then again np.random.rand of 5, comma marker, and then label is equal to string container, that is label is equal to marker is equal to string container dot format of marker, format of dot format of marker. Here what I'm doing is I'm actually plotting 5 randomly generated pair of points for X and Y with a marker. Okay, and after that I'm using this label to print the legend. So finally I'll write as plt.legend. Okay, plt.legend. And one more thing here, for the clear visualization of the plot, what I'm doing is I'm specifying the x limit. So I'll write as plt.xlim of 0, 2, and then plt.show. plt.show. So let me execute this code cell. Yes, this is the output, and guys, these are some of the commonly used marker styles in scatterplot. Okay, so we just saw the demonstration of different marker styles. But this plt.plot function allows for a wide variety of possible visualization options like customizing these marker size, marker color, marker edge color, as well as this marker edge width too. So guys, let's do some coding work and see how actually this customization is done. So for that, I'll start the coding with plt.plot of x, np.sin of x, p, then marker size is equal to 10. Okay, and then marker face color is equal to marker face color, what I'll give, okay, I'll give as magenta. Marker face color is equal to magenta. Then marker edge color is equal to black. And this marker edge width, yes, marker edge width is equal to 2. And I'll give this a y limit. So plt.ylim of -1.2, 1.2, and then plt.show. So here I'm actually specifying this marker size as 10 and its face color as magenta, and to be more creative I'm specifying this marker edge color as black and the edge width as 2. Okay, now for the better visualization, what I have done is I have specified this y limit. So here y limit I have specified as -1.2 to 1.2. Okay, so now let's execute this code cell. Great. This output actually shows us as how beautifully we can customize these markers. Okay, so guys, this was all about the scatter plots with plt.plot function. Now let's move on and see as how this second method, that is scatter plots with plt.scatter, works. So the scatter plots with plt.scatter is the second method, and I can say as one of the powerful method of creating the scatter plots. The usage of this plt.scatter function is very much similar to that of this plt.plot function. So it will be like plt.scatteroff. I'll write the code this way: plt.scatteroff x comma y comma marker is equal to O, and let me execute this here. Okay, see, we got the output and it is a simple scatter plot, correct? Now, what is the primary difference between this plt.scatter and plt.plot? Yes, this question arises over here. So this plt.scatter can be used to create the scatter plots where the properties of individual points, if I say properties like size of the marker or the face color, edge color, and many more things. So these properties of each individual point can be individually controlled, or I can say as it can be mapped to the data. So guys, to give better clarity on this, what I'll do is I'll just create a random scatter plot with the points of so many colors. So for that, I'll start the coding here as x is equal to np dot linspace of 0, 10, 25. Okay, then y is equal to np dot sin of x and plt dot scatter of x comma y comma then marker is equal to d, then c map is equal to set1, then c is equal to x. Okay, after that I'll give as plt dot color bar and then plt dot show. Fine. So as a first step, here what I'm doing is I'm creating x and y, wherein x is equal to np.linspace of 0, 10, 25 and then y is equal to np.sin of x. Now we have got this function called plt.scatter. Yes, plt.scatter. So if you observe, here we have got different arguments. So guys, let's explore these arguments one by one. And here, as a first argument, I have passed a pair of values, that is x and y. And after that, I have specified this marker style as D, which stands for diamond. Okay, so the next arguments which we have passed is CMap. Yes, it is CMap. And it looks very much new to us. Correct, right? So guys, let's first understand as what actually this CMap is. This CMap stands for the color maps, and this color map defines the color schemes of visualization. So guys, we have got 3 different categories of color maps. First is sequential color map, and then we have got divergent color map, and after that we have got qualitative color maps. Okay, now coming to this first color map, that is sequential color map. These sequential color maps are actually made up of one continuous sequence of colors. So to give you an example here, we have got binary or viridis. So these are the example of sequential color maps. Okay. And coming to the second category, that is diverging color maps or the divergent color maps. And these color maps usually contains 2 distinct colors which actually shows positive and negative deviations from a means. For example, I can say this as RDBU or RDGY, BWR and many more. So these are the divergent color maps. Okay. Now coming to the third category, that is qualitative color maps, and these qualitative color maps are the mixed colors with no particular sequence. It is not like previous 2 categories. It doesn't have any sequence as such. It is just a mixed colors with no particular sequence. So to give you an example here, we have got pastel, pale, set 1 and 2, tab 10, 20 and many more things, and you can see some of the patterns here on the screen as well. Okay. Now, if you observe our code, we have specified the color map as set1, which actually comes under this third category, that is qualitative color map. Now, let me come to this page. So if you observe here, this is how the color bar of set 1 looks like. So, what this color bar represents is like, it actually illustrates the relationship between the colors of the color map with the data values. That means the lowest value in our data will have this red color and the highest value in our data will be having this gray color. So altogether, I can see like this, that is, as the value increases from the lowest to highest, it will pick the color from the color bar in the order of left to right. Okay. Now coming back to our code, so the next argument which we have specified is C. Yes, and this C stands for marker color. What is it? Marker color. This marker color, that is C, is actually a very important parameter. Why? Because to use any colors present in the color map, we should specify some range of values, and these range of values are specified through this parameter C, which is marker color. And in our case, I have assigned the C with the values of X. Okay. So here, based on our understanding, if we try to predict our output, then I can say, as since I have selected the C map as set1, so the minimum value of X will be having the red color and the maximum value of this X will be having this gray color. Okay, so guys, these were some of the arguments which we have used in plt.scatter. After this, we have got one more function. Yes, we have used another function, that is plt.colorbar. So this will just display the color scale. Okay, this color bar will be displaying the color scale. And guys, you will understand in a very better way as we execute this code. So finally, I'll be giving this as plt.show, and we all know what this plt.show actually is. So let me execute this code cell. Yes, we got the output. And as per the values of X, the marker colors has been chosen from the color map. And if you observe this color map of set1, this is how the colors are distributed. That is, minimum values will be having the red color and the maximum values will be having the gray color. Hence, in our output, when the value of X is minimum, that is something between 0 and 1, we have the marker color as red. Correct? And if you observe towards the maximum values of X, that is between 9 and 10, then the markers are in gray color. Do you agree with me? Great. So guys, and this is the color bar. I told you, we have mentioned something in our code like plt.colorbar. Yes, for this thing only we have mentioned that way, and this is called the color bar. And from this color bar, we can get the information as how the values of X are linked to the colors in our color map. Okay, so now let's experiment with some other CMap. We actually experimented with the set one, but to be more creative and to understand in a better way, let's experiment with some other CMaps over here. So let me first try with this sequential category, that is, I'll take up as Viridis. Okay, so in this place of set1, I have given this as Viridis, and let me execute this. Yes, see, the colors have been chosen as per the new color map Viridis. Now, let me try out with some other CMap. So, let me try out with Cool. Yes, Cool. Cool. And let me execute this. Yes, output is really cool and beautiful. And again, here the colors have been chosen as per this new color map Cool. Okay. So apart from controlling the colors of the individual markers, we can also control the size of each and every marker in the plot. Yes, we can do that. So to give you more clarity on this, let me write some code and explain it with the output. So here I'll start by specifying the random seed. Yes, I'll start by specifying the random seed as np.random.seed of 0. And then X is equal to np.linspace of 0, 10, 25, and then Y is equal to np.sign of X. Okay, and then I'll give as marker size is equal to 10 into np dot random dot randant random dot randant of 10 comma 100 comma 25. So here what I'm doing is I'm creating a new variable as marker size with the random integer values which will. Here what I'm doing is I'm creating a new variable as marker size. So this marker size with the random integer values which we will use as a reference for the marker size during the creation of a plot. So now what I'll do is I'll write as plt.scatRof x comma y comma marker is equal to d, and then c is equal to x, and then s is equal to marker size, and then cmap is equal to set1. So here we are aware of almost all the arguments except this yes, and here this yes refers to the marker size, and I have assigned the variable marker size which we have created before. Yes, it is very simple. I have just assigned the variable marker size which we have created before. Okay. Then again we have got this plt.colorbar and of course plt.show. Okay, let me execute this code cell here. Okay, we have the output and you can clearly see that every marker are of different size. Here in this output, if you observe that many points are overlapping, but can you exactly say as how many points are overlapping? No, not possible. So in order to have the better viewing of this overlapping results, we will use one keyword, that is alpha keyword. This alpha keyword actually adjusts the transparency level. So now what I'll do is I'll just copy this code and paste it here. Okay. And now inside this plt.scatter, what I'll do is I'll just add this keyword that is alpha is equal to 0.5. Okay. Fine. Now let me execute this code cell. Great. See? We now have the clear visibility of the overlapping markers in our plot, which was actually missing in our previous plot. See, in the previous plot, the overlapping results was not that visible. But in our present plot, with that keyword alpha, that is transparency, we have got the clear picture of overlapping. So now to get more clarity on this alpha, what I'll do is I'll just change the value of this alpha again. I'll give it as 0.2. Okay, and let me see the output here. See, the transparency level has changed. Okay, again we can change this alpha to some other value. So this time I'll give as 0.8 and execute this. See, again the transparency level of the plot got changed. Understood with this concept? Okay, great. So guys, we are now aware as how we create the scatter plot using data. Okay, these scatter plots will be used very frequently in our real-time dataset analysis. So now to get more clarity on this, let's take up one dataset and create the scatter plot. Here we are taking a real-time dataset and we are creating a scatter plot. Now to begin with, what I'll do is I'll write as import pandas as pd, and then df is equal to pd.read_csv of iris.csv, and after that I'll display the data frame df. Okay, yes, this is how our dataset looks like. Now, before using the dataset for our plot, let's get some knowledge as what actually this dataset is all about. So guys, this dataset is known as Iris Plants dataset. So before working on this dataset, let's understand the characteristics of this dataset. Actually, this dataset consists of 150 instances, that is 150 flowers, and these 150 flowers can be categorized in 3 species of iris. Now, the three species are Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, and Iris virginica. And now, this dataset of 150 instances of flowers consists of 50 samples from each of the three species of iris. And here, the four features were measured from each sample. So, the four features are like the length and the width of the sepals and the length and the width of the petals in centimeters. And now, based on the combination of these four features, the samples were actually categorized into three species. And the three species are Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, and Iris virginica. So collectively, I can say as this dataset has 150 instances, wherein 50 in each of three classes, and then 4 numeric attributes, and the attributes are sepal length in centimeters, sepal width, petal length, and petal width in centimeters. And finally, it has got 3 classes. One is Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, and another is Iris virginica. So guys, now coming back to my Jupyter notebook. Yes, this is the data frame which we have got here. So as I said before, we have got 150 instances. Correct, right? We have got 150 instances. And along with that, we have got 4 columns. And these 4 columns are representing 4 different attributes. And these 4 columns are actually considered as the input data. And after that, we have got one more column, that is target, which is actually a output column, which holds the 3 targets, that is Iris setosa as target 0, Iris versicolor as target 1, and Iris virginica as target 2. And now, based on the combination of these 4 inputs, the target will be decided as 0, 1, or 2. Okay, and now using this data frame, what we are doing is we are creating a scatter plot. So let me start this code as plt.scatter of df of sepal length of centimeters, sepal length of centimeter, and then df of sepal width. Okay, sepal width centimeters, and then S is equal to 100, and then C is equal to df of target. After that, CMAP is equal to set1, and alpha is equal to 0.5. Alpha is equal to 0.5. Yeah. Now here for plotting, that is for scatter plot, we are considering only two parameters for categorization, that is sepal length and sepal width. Guys, I'm doing this to keep the coding simple and it will be very easy for us to understand the scatter plot. For that reason, I'm considering only the 2 categories. So that's the reason I have given as df of sepal length in centimeter and df of sepal width in centimeters. Okay, and after that, we have specified this marker size S as 100. And now coming to our next parameters, that is C, marker color, and in our case, I have assigned the C with the data frame target, that is 3 different targets will have different colors. Okay, and then we have specified this color map as set1, and along with that, for the better viewing of this overlapping results, we are using this alpha, and the value we have specified as 0.5. Fine. Then labeling. Yes, labeling the axis is very much important. So I'll write as plt.x label of sepal length centimeter, and then plt.y label of sepal width centimeter. Okay, then for the displaying of this color bar, I'll give that as plt.color bar, and finally it is plt.show. And let me execute this code. Yes, we got the desired output. And if you observe here, the target 0 is represented by red color, and then the target 1 is represented by orange color, and wherein this target 2 is represented by gray color. That is, using this scatter plot, we can easily differentiate between the outputs. But along with that, we have got the plot with the desired CMAP, that is set 1 with the transparency level of 0.5. Correct? So guys, finally I can say as this kind of multicolor and multi-feature scatter plots are very much useful for both exploration purpose as well as the presentation of the data. Agree with me? Great. Now, a question arises here, that is plot versus scatter. Which is efficient? Is plt.scatter is more efficient than this plt.plot? And guys, no doubt, we have got many different features available in both plt.plot and the plt.scatter. But what if we have to choose one over the other? What will be the answer for this? Guys, it really doesn't matter if we have small amount of data. You can use either of the two. But when this data sets get larger than a few thousand points, then I can say as this plt.plot function, yes, plt.plot function can be more efficient than this plt.scatter. See, the reason is very simple. This plt.scatter has the capability to render a different size or color for each and every point of the marker. So the renderer must do the extra work for constructing each point individually. But in this plt.plot function, the points are actually the clones of each other. So the work for the appearance of the points or the markers is done only once for the entire set of data. So for the large data sets, the difference between these two can lead to vastly different performance. And for this reason, we always prefer this plt.plot over this plt.scatter, and especially for the larger data sets. Okay? So guys, this was just a simple note on efficiency. And with this, we come to the end of this scatter plot. So, see you in next video. When the data is shown in the form of pictures, it becomes very much easy for us to understand it. So, in the path of data visualization, we have learned two types of plot. One is line plot and other is scatter plot. Now, the next plot we will be exploring is bar graph or bar plot. This bar graph represents the data in the form of vertical or horizontal bars, and it is very much useful to compare the quantities. Now, how do we plot this, or how do we create this bar graph? So, to create a bar graph, there is a dedicated function, and it is plt.bar. And this plt.bar function takes three important arguments. They are x, height, and width, wherein this x represents the x coordinates of the bar, then this height represents the height of the bar, and of course this width represents the width of the individual bars. So guys, let's explore more on this with a real coding. So let's go to our place, that is Jupyter Notebook. So here what I'll do is I'll just start by importing certain things which is very much needed, that is percentage matplotlib inline, then import matplotlib.pyplot as plt, then import numpy as np, and then plt.style.use. I'm using here is bmh, it is bmh. Okay, then I'll write as x is equal to np dot a range of 1, 9, GOT is equal to 2.52, 3.8, and then 4.97, 6.84, 6.88, 7.69, then 10.26, and then 11.99. Okay, then plt dot bar of x, height is equal to GOT, comma width is equal to zero point 0.6. Then plt.xlabel I'll give as seasons, and then plt.ylabel I'll write as viewers in millions. Viewers in millions, and of course plt.show. Okay. As a first step, I have created a NumPy array X which contains the array elements between 1 to 9. And then I have created the Python series as GOT, which actually contains the viewership information of the TV series Game of Thrones starting from season 1 to season 8, and all the values are in the scale of millions. And now to create the bar plot of this information, what I have done is I have made use of this function, that is plt.bar, and inside this plt.bar function, as a first argument, I have mentioned as x, which actually corresponds to the x coordinates of the bars. And after that, I have written as height is equal to GOT. So the height of the bars or the individual bars will be based on these values present in GOT Python list. Okay. And next we have got the third argument as width, which I have specified as 0.6. So the width of the individual bars will be equal to 0.6. And then we have this X label and the Y label for our plot. And of course, we have got plt.show. So guys, what shall we do now? Let's execute this code cell. Yes, we got the output. And now if you observe this x-axis, the coordinates, that is x coordinates of the bars, has the values just like as we have specified in the NumPy array. Okay, after that we have specified as height is equal to GOT. So in the output, if you observe, this bar with the label 1 is having the height of 2.52, and this bar with the label is having the height of 3.8. In the same way, this is having the height of 4.97, 6.84, 6.88, and so on. And see, this is 11.99. Okay. And also we have specified the width. So the width of all the individual bar will be equal to 0.6. Okay. Got it? Now what I'll do is I'll just copy this code and paste it here. Okay. And now if you observe this plt.bar, here I have not mentioned the width of the individual bar. See, I have not mentioned the width of the individual bar. So guys, what do you think? Do we still get the output? That too without mentioning this width. Let's see that. So let me execute this now. Yes, for our surprise, we are still getting the output. Why? Because if we don't mention the width, then the system will assign the default width as 0.8 for this plot. Yes, the system will automatically assign the default width as 0.8, and yes, that's the reason we are getting the output. That is, even though without mentioning the width, we are getting the output because the default width is equal to 0.8. Fine. Now, just for the curiosity, what I'll do is I'll just increase the value of the width and let's see how our bar plot or the bar chart looks like. So what I'll do, I'll again copy paste the same code, and here I'll just modify the width value. So I'll give as 1 and execute this. Yes, width of every individual bar has increased. Understood? Yes. Now, to be more creative with this bar chart, what I'll do is I'll just change the colors of the bar, and also I'll specify its edge color and also the width of the edge color. Fine. So again, same code, copying and pasting over here. Okay. But here in this plt.bar, what I'll do is I'll pass some other arguments like colors is equal to pink, color is equal to pink, and then edge color is equal to red, edge color is equal to red, and afterwards I'll give as line width is equal to 3, and of course this line width specifies the width of the edge color. Okay, let me execute this code cell. Yes, see, the colors of the bar is as specified. That is pink, and then the edge color is red. Looking pretty, right? Pinky pink. Okay. Now the question is, can we modify the transparency of these bars as we have done in the scatter plot? That too by using the keyword alpha. So let's give a try on this keyword alpha. So what I'll do, I'll again copy paste the same code, and inside this plt.bar, I'll specify the alpha as 0.3 and execute this. Great, it works. Yes, by using alpha, we can change the transparency of the bar chart or the bars. Okay. Now, just for fun, let's check as we will be able to change the line style of these bars or not. So for that, of course, I'll copy the same code here, and then I'll specify this line style as dash dash. Okay. Yes, I'll execute this. Great. We can even modify the line style of these bars. Pretty impressive, right? Now we have got one more argument as fill. Yes, it is called fill, and this fill accepts the binary input, that is either true or false. Now to understand as how it works, what I'll do is I'll just write here, that is inside this plt.bar, as fill is equal to false. Okay, and no other modifications over here, and let me execute this. Yes. If you observe the output, no color, yes, no color is filled inside the bars. Guys, even though we have specified the color as pink, and then if we specify this fill as false, then the output, that is output bars, will not have any colors. Got it? Yes. So guys, till now, what all the bar charts we plotted are all the vertical bar charts. Do you agree with me? All these are vertical bar charts. Now, let's see as how we can create a horizontal bar chart. So here, I'll write the code as x is equal to np.arange of 1, 9, and then got is equal to 2.52. I'll just copy the previous values. Okay. So it's like 2.52, 3.8, 4.97, 6.8 and so on. Okay. And then plt.bar h. Yes, it is plt.bar h of x comma got comma color is equal to red. Okay. plt.xlabel of viewership in millions. And then plt.ylabel of seasons. Okay. Then plt.show. So guys, by seeing the code itself, you can make out the difference. That is, here for the horizontal bar graph, we are using the function that is plt.barh. That's it. It is as simple as that. Okay, we just have to use this function rather than using that plt.bar. We will be using this plt.barh. It is as simple as that. So let me execute this code cell. Yes, we got the output, and here we have got the horizontal bar chart. Okay. So guys, now let's do one thing. This time let's take up 2 TV series for the comparison of viewership in respective seasons. And the 2 TV series we are considering here are the Game of Thrones and the Big Bang Theory. Okay, so let's start our coding here. So here I'll start creating the data as x is equal to np.arange of 1, 9. Okay. So what happens here is like it will serve as x coordinate labels for our bar chart. And then GOT is equal to, what I'll do is I'll just pass the values of the viewership in millions. Okay. Okay. And then I'll do the same for this BBT also. Okay. Now, to create a single figure with multiple bars or multiple plots, what we have to do is very simple. We just call this plot function multiple times. Do you remember we did the same thing in the line plots? Yes, here also what we are doing is we just call this plot function multiple times. So I'll write as plt dot bar of x comma got comma label is equal to Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. And then plt dot bar of x comma bbt comma label is equal to Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory. Okay. Then plt dot x label of seasons. Then plt dot y label of viewers in millions. Viewers in billions. And then I'll specify the ylim. So plt dot ylim of 0 comma 30. Yeah, let it be 0 comma 30. And then plt dot legend. And finally plt dot show. So guys, let me execute this. Oh yes, we got the output. But it is only displaying the bars for the Big Bang Theory. But where are the bars, or where is the bar for this GOT? So, why it happened? Where did we went wrong? Or did we miss anything over here? Let's think on this. Don't worry guys, I'll tell you as what we missed. Okay? Guys, if you remember that before we learnt as the width of the bars will have some default value. Correct, right? Width of the bars will have some default value. That is, even though you don't define the width in your code, still the width of the bars will be considered as 0.8. Now observe here. This is just a simple bar graph and we know that the width is equal to 0.8, that is the default value. But guys, in this code which we were doing, we have got two data, that is one for GOT and another for Big Bang Theory. And the width of the bars for both the data will be having 0.8. Do you agree with me? But the result we are expecting here is something like this. This is what the result we are expecting. That is two different bars for two different data, that too side by side. Why? Because here we are comparing the data of viewership for respective seasons. So it should be looking this way. But here we are not getting the desired output. Correct, right? Now to get the output in this way, we can do one simple thing. That is by specifying the width. So now it is something like this. That is 0.8 for BBT and 0.8 for GOT. And it is overlapping over each other, and that's the reason we are not able to find the plot for this GOT. We can only find the plot for the BBT in our output. Now what we will do is, to get the proper output, I'll just specify the width as 0.4 so that we'll get the bar side by side like this. See, this will be 0.4 and this will be 0.4, and this 0.4 for GOT and this 0.4 for BBT. Okay, now let me get back to my notebook, that is Jupyter Notebook. And here what I'll do is I'll just copy the same code and do some modifications over here. So here I'll specify this width is equal to 0.4. And now inside this plt.bar, what I'll do is I'll just specify as width is equal to width. And here also I'll do the same, that is width is equal to width. That's it. Okay, so let me execute this now. Yes, output is here. But guys, it is not as expected. So again, what are we missing here? Don't worry, I'll give you the complete picture of these types of bar charts, that is group bar chart. The output which we are expecting are actually called as group bar chart. So before getting into coding part, let me explain you certain things which will give you the correct or the complete picture and all the answers for your whys. Okay, so observe this. In the previous code, we mentioned the width as 0.4. So it will look something like this. That means both the bars are overlapping each other. That's the reason we are not able to differentiate between two bars. See, BBT is also 0.4 and GOT is also 0.4. But they are in the same place. That is, they are overlapping. Now, to solve this problem of overlapping, what I'll do is I'll just take up this bar of GOT. Okay, I'll just take up this bar of GOT and shift it to the left side. See, now it will look this way. But still, they are overlapping. Half of the GOT is overlapping with the half of BBT. Correct? Half of the GOT is overlapping with half of the BBT. So again, we are not getting the desired output. So one shifting is not working out. Now what I'll do is I'll perform one more shifting. Yes, I'll perform one more shifting for this BBT. Yes, now I'll do the shifting for this BBT. So here I'll be shifting this to the right side this way. Okay, so guys, here we can clearly observe that the both bars, that too without overlapping, that too side by side, and of course the width is 0.4. So now let's implement this concept in our coding and see as how we can shift these bars. Okay, yes, Jupyter Notebook. Now again, I'll just copy paste the previous code. Here what I'll do is I'll just replace this X of Game of Thrones with X minus width by 2. Yes, it is X minus width by 2, which will offset our Game of Thrones bar to left side. So here I'm shifting this GOT bar to left side. This thing X minus width by 2 is solving our purpose over here. Okay. And then I'll replace this X of BBT with X plus width by 2, which will actually offset our BBT bar to right side. Okay, simple and no more modifications obviously. So let me execute this. Wow, great. We achieved the desired output, and here we can easily compare the viewership of BBT and GOT for respective seasons. And of course, our logic of shifting worked well. So, no overlapping anymore. Okay? So guys, this was all about bar chart. And guys, with this, we come to the end of this section on Matplotlib. So, I guess we have covered all the required basics of plotting which we require for our learning journey towards the data science with SAP. And of course, we will be learning some of the advanced steps of plotting with relevant business case with the real data in our future sections. Okay? So till then, happy learning. And guys, please don't forget to complete your assignments. It is very important for your flawless journey. Okay? So see you then.